Hello there, Mr. Christian DT at the Hen, aka Tucholske, or whatever the hell my name ends up being next week. Yeah, never mind. Generally speaking, this was supposed to come out several days earlier, but we were having some very bizarre difficulties. First off, my camera would not adjust its aperture for indoors, and everything was looking really dark, and then I tried to record the whole thing on my webcam, and I did the whole thing, and then the program would not accept it because I didn't record it through the webcam while importing it into the program at the same time, so the program refused to accept the video. It just was a big black screen with a question mark on it. Generally speaking, that just frustrated the hell out of me because I'd already done it, so I had to take a day off, and now I'm recording it Thursday when it was originally supposed to be coming out today on Thursday. This is probably going to end up coming out maybe Friday, most likely Saturday. The next one is probably going to be late too, either Thursday or Friday. Basically, though, I want to try and get these set up to be coming out every Wednesday. So hopefully we can get that back in order by the time I get to the second book, and I hope you guys really enjoy what we're doing here with the HENovelz review. So I'll go ahead and let you get into that, and that's that.
Okay, this is something I've wanted to get into for a while. Book reviews! Although, I've been through a hell of a lot of inner debate on how I actually wanted to do them. Basically, I've decided I'll just carry on in the style that I'm doing now. There will be 2 reviews for every book. One is the non-spoiler version, aka this one, where I will talk about the author's background. If I've done it previously, I'll just direct you to that review for that part. Give a basic synopsis of the book and go into a bit of the writer's style and abilities, the characters, say what I thought of it and what kind of people might be interested, as well as what genres and or topics the book covered. Then the following week there will be a longer version, the discussion, that will go into a deeper retrospective and will hopefully be kind of humorous and will spoil the whole book for those of you who haven't read it yet and want it kept a secret. But don't worry, I will tell you at the beginning of each video which one it is. The review or discussion. And there will probably be 2 separate playlists for the year's reviews, but generally the non-spoiler one, aka the review, will always be the first to be uploaded because it's shorter, will be recorded faster, edited faster, and therefore uploaded faster. Plus, as far as it goes, it's just polite. That means 2 books a month, so roughly 24 a year, and on top of that, the whole thing will be done in this obnoxious British accent because I just like the way it sounds. So, I figured the first book on my list would be the freshest in my mind, and there is nothing fresher than the book I just finished reading about 10 minutes before I began writing the review. That would be Sphere by Michael Crichton. How does it hold up? Watch the rest of the bleeding video. Seriously, you guys are not escaping from me. Ever. First off, Michael Crichton. Now the guy grew up in the 50s, coming off of the big progress as evil binge sci-fi writers were into at the time, and that really influences his writing style. Seriously, every single one of his sci-fi books has the exact same moral no matter what the hell it's talking about. Make sure you know what the fuck you're doing before you do it. Anyway, he seemed interested in writing even as a child. Not very odd for almost everyone who ever became a writer. I mean, it's the same for me. I learned to read by the age of 4, was considered very creative by almost every teacher I ever had. But this is not that. One thing he did do that I did not was having a column in the New York Times at the age of 14. That's I have to admit, not a lot of people do that. Yeah, so he went to college for a writing degree. At Harvard, for Christ's sake. But got pissed off at the professor, not wanting to leave without some sort of degree. I mean, he was. At Harvard, for Christ's sake. Imagine how pissed off his parents would be if he transferred because he didn't like his teacher. He instead went into anthropology, and later re-enrolled in Harvard for a medical degree, giving him his base knowledge in science, which he later used for all his novels. He started writing at that point in the early 60s under two false names. John Lang was the name he used on all of his action stories, while he used the nickname Jeffrey Hudson for a medical book that he wrote, A Case of Need. But his first book that he published under his real name was his first sci-fi novel, The Andromeda Strain. Most people were cited as saying, He didn't really stop writing full-time under his real name, however, until 1972 with his second sci-fi novel, The Terminal Man, and every novel he wrote from that point on was under his real name. Secretly, though, or rather I should say not so secretly, it was pretty damn easy to find actually, Crichton originally wanted to get into film as well, which he did, but not a whole lot. He made adaptations of two of his novels, Binary, under the name Pursuit, and The Great Train Robbery, and made a handful of others up into the 80s. He wrote a couple after that, but the two things I think he was most popular and well known for was the creation of the TV series ER, which was a backburner project that he'd all but forgotten about, which came into being through the help of his close friend Steven Spielberg. Which goes to show being friends with Steven Spielberg is a very good thing. And the sci-fi film Westworld. Beyond that, he was very introspective and very quiet. He was taken to court several times on plagiarism charges, but won every single one, and was most known through the three most popular film adaptations of his work, The Andromeda Strain, The Terminal Man, and of course one of my favourite movies of all time, Jurassic Park. Now there were about 6 other adaptations of his work that came out after that, but to public opinion only one of them was decent, and none of them ever got the recognition Jurassic Park and its first sequel did. Now, I know that people think The Lost World sucked, but I concur that that movie was better than the book in that one specific case. Personally, I just don't think any of those people who made the other movies knew how to adapt a Crichton novel, but I think I'll save that for another review. Now, there was an adaptation of Sphere that came out in 1997, I believe, but I've not yet seen it, though I want to, no matter how bad it's supposed to be. And I'll remember to make a review of that whenever I see it. Now, on Sphere. The novel was released in 1987 and follows a psychologist named Norman Johnson, who several years earlier was tapped for his expertise by the military to work with them and come up with a contingency plan for alien contact. Personally, he thought the whole thing was a joke and just did whatever they told him, talked to who they told him, wrote what they told him and handed it in, and he couldn't possibly give two shits what happened. But one thing he did take seriously was to come up with a list of professionals who he thought would be needed in such a case, namely a psychologist, a biologist, a mathematician, and an astronomer, and interviewed top people in each field to build a list of high-end professionals whom he personally thought would work well together. Several years later, he's whisked away by the Navy to a remote location in the Pacific Ocean where they seem to believe that they found an alien spacecraft on the ocean floor and want to send in his hand-picked team, which unfortunately included himself, down to the bottom for several days in an aquatic habitat to study the ship. Only, it turns out, not to be an alien craft, but an advanced spacecraft made by the United States about 50 years in the future that somehow ended up on the ocean floor hundreds of years ago with the entire crew vanished. And a search of the ship turns up a strange metallic sphere, and the entire rest of the book is trying to figure out what it is, where it came from, what's inside it, and how to open it. Needless to say, really strange shit starts happening all over the place, and things get even worse when a hurricane on the surface traps them all down there for a week, as things get progressively worse and worse. This book, like most Crichton novels, is a bit difficult to get into at the beginning, but again, like most Crichton novels, once things start happening, it is impossible to put down, especially because you honestly don't know what the hell is happening. In fact, the cast of the book don't even have the slightest clue as to what's going on until the last 50 pages of the book, and things are just so random and absolutely insane that you are rendered unable to function in reality until you figure out what the hell is going on. And one thing that makes this book even better is there is actual character development in this book. Now, I don't want to diss Crichton or anything, but he's either not good with characters or just doesn't care to try too often. Honestly, I'd probably be leaning more towards the latter. His Wikipedia page claims that he liked to research for a few months, then punch out the whole book in like a month and a half. I think Crichton only had his plot in order and wasn't really thinking much about the characters so much. Why does this book have development where most others don't, really? Well, every Crichton novel focuses around some area of science. The area Sphere focuses on is psychology. Needless to say, it's sort of a given to focus on your character's past, thoughts, and subconscious at least a little bit if you're delving in there. Could it be better? Yes. But that's not saying much, honestly. There's no such thing as a perfect story, and this is a good book, definitely. It accomplishes exactly what it needs to. Entertaining and informing the reader. I've read better, but I've also read a hell of a lot worse. Some of them coming from the My Documents file on my computer. Let's just say the ending, once you get there, is fairly satisfying. Not all the questions are answered, but enough of them are to leave you satisfied, and the characters who survive come full circle, so you feel fairly satisfied with them by the end as well. As for the cast itself, Norman Johnson is an older man, mid to late 50s. He's fairly level-headed, spends the majority of the book trying to keep the other characters level. Unfortunately for him, this becomes increasingly more difficult as they're trapped in a high-stress environment, and the people he chose to have changed a bit in subsequent years since he did the study. Next, we have Harry, the black mathematician. Generally speaking, yes, he's pretty much the Blackian Malcolm of this novel, an obnoxious know-it-all who hates everybody because his childhood sucked. That being said, while you do kind of hate him at first, he oddly becomes more likable as the novel progresses. Next is Beth, the biologist. She's very lesbian-esque, although this gets more headway as the novel continues. While she seems somewhat the easiest of the group to get along with, she is a bit too feminist, occasionally to the Barbies are evil, and you're sexist for referring to a theoretical human as male levels. Then there's Captain Harold. I'm very proud of even remembering that much of his name, yes. Who also just serves strictly to keep calm and order. He's very militaristic, however, does keep up a bit of a manipulative edge to both the cast and his superiors for the majority of the novel. And finally, we have Ted. Ted is the annoying bastard who never shuts up and has to keep muttering to himself or keep up a conversation with someone, even if he has nothing to say anyway, to remain confident or in control. Everybody hates him and is annoyed by him, and if you're one of those people who really get into the novel, you probably will too. There are other people, but they're obviously death fodder. Don't tell me that was a spoiler. It's pretty much evident when they're introduced they're all going to die. Anyway, in the end, the book is definitely worth reading. If you're into sci-fi and theoretical science, all Crichton novels, including this one, are for you. Now, this book gets into areas of psychology, military science, behavioral study, aliens, time travel, astronomy, and psychic power. So if those are up your alley and you like reading, give this one a go. Trust me, it's well worth your time. So, that's that, and more to come. Next week you'll get the full detailed analysis of the book in a comedic fashion, and the week after that will be my second review, Thomas Grenius's... should have thought that out better. Thomas Grenius's 34th Degree, so stick around for that. Remember to like, subscribe, and share if you like what you saw, whether you liked it or not. Comment. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, what issues are bothering you that you think we could work on. If there was something funny that you just like repeating for some reason, go on ahead. I don't care, as long as you aren't being blatantly rude to myself or other commentators. You can even discuss the book if you want, but remember, this video is supposed to be anti-spoiler. Next week's discussion video is where we can let it all hang out. And, well, with that, we'll see you next time on HENovelz.